And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Lewis. Next to me, as always, is my beautiful co-host Laraib, as we're here to break down week 12 of the NFL season. We're starting to get to that point, mid-November, approaching Thanksgiving very soon, where things are really starting to ramp up in the NFL season. We're filming this on Thursday afternoon. So if you want to see our picks for the Thursday night football game, go check out our last episode that was filmed on Tuesday. But we're finally getting back into it, Larab. I currently hold a 2-week advantage on you in the picks. So, it's getting late pretty early now. So you got to get back on that hot streak you were on, or things could twist very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're right at the 2/3 mark of the season, and as bad as I need a couple wins in the picks, a lot of these teams also need wins to stay in the race for the playoffs or to still win their division, Lewis. And so this is going to be a really fun week. A lot of lines that are kind of high, and then a couple ones that are, really ticky-tacky. And so I think this is going to be a really interesting week for the picks. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into one of those really crucial matchups. It is the Indianapolis Colts coming off a bye, going to Kansas City to play the very stoppable Chiefs this year, who are 5-5. And Lewis, I mean, huge upset from last week was you picking the Broncos at home to beat the Chiefs in what was sort of a must-win spot. And now again, the Chiefs at 5-5, I'm really leaning towards them in what is a must-win spot. This time at home, and that's what's the key difference for me this week at home. The Chiefs at home this year averaged 28 points versus on the road 22 points. And so we know the deficiencies they have running the ball. Their third down defense has been a little suspect this year, but the huge bump that they get at home, I think that's the difference in this game.
Yeah, for me, it's hard. If you just look at these two teams in a vacuum, this is a 2-loss team going on the road to a 5-loss team at this point of the year. Usually the the team with 2 losses isn't over a field goal underdog in this spot. So it's pretty interesting the line is valued where it is. Now I get it, right? It's the Chiefs at home coming off a loss who are also coming off a bye and a game that they really, really need to just stay in the picture, right? Because if you fall to 6 losses, you basically have to win out to try to make a playoff spot because one more loss after that and you are finished. So why am I picking the Colts in this matchup, you might ask, Rob? I mean, Shane Steichen off a bye. I just think, Daniel Jones had 2 rough weeks before this. But I just think a week off the bye, kind of let the hype die down, also coming off a trip, across the seas. So a lot of stuff to game plan change up, right? And they've been looking at this Chiefs matchup for 2 weeks in a row. And I just think Shane Steichen's a very brilliant offensive mind. This Chiefs rush defense does scare me in this matchup, even though how great Jonathan Taylor has been. But the Chiefs really haven't faced an awesome rushing attack like this all season long. I mean, even look at some of like the theoretical good rushing attacks. The Eagles, who they played and held pretty well, they haven't been the same caliber of a rushing attack or offense that we've seen all season long. Same for the Broncos, same for the Chargers in week one, where actually the Chargers did run the ball pretty well. So I think this Chiefs team is definitely up for a super tall task here. And I just think that I don't know. Everyone's going with the Chiefs in this one. There's gonna be a lot of money on the Chiefs. This is a big spot for them. First noon game they've had in a while. Maybe they're a little tired, not used to waking up so early for these games. I don't know. I think the Colts are being undervalued in this spot, and as a potential pick for my upset, I don't love it, but 3.5 is just way too many points. I like the Colts in this matchup.
And I gotta lean with the Chiefs. I mean, the huge factor has been Daniel Jones, like you mentioned. The past two games he played in, pumpkin watch against the Steelers, and then he really had to claw back in that game, and it was mostly on the back of Jonathan Taylor against the Falcons that was overseas. And so I think this is going to be Daniel Jones in the element of Kansas City. We're going to see the Kansas City chop. It is going to be a brisk 59 degrees in the chilly Arctic tundra of Kansas City. And I think this is going to be a close battle. I think the Colts cover to spoil a lot of people's parlays, but the Chiefs, They will be inevitable. Last year they were 12-0 in one score games. Now they're 0-5. I think they get to 1-5 after a victory. I think they win 26-23.
And I think they fall to 0-6 because one of the biggest weaknesses of this Chiefs team has been their kicker. Harrison Butker misses a game tying field goal. Colts win 24-21. And probably the best game of the week. Let's just keep it a buck. So let's go ahead, Laraib. Let's move on to our next highlighted game. We have the Green Bay Packers hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Packers are 6-point favorites here at home. And JJ McCarthy, I mean, or as some might call him, or as he calls himself, nine. Whenever you let nine out, yikes. Last week against the Bears, 5 turnovers. Now, still orchestrated a go ahead drive to, go up on the Bears. And if it wasn't for a marvelous Caleb Williams drive to take the lead, and then despite how bad McCarthy played, he still put them in a position to have a chance at winning that game, right? So this is definitely not an easy matchup here for Green Bay. Green Bay getting the nod at 6 points. Barb, I want to ask you, with no Josh Jacobs and just a kind of weird shuffling of the deck of this Packers offense, what do you expect that Jordan Love needs to do to have this team win against Minnesota?
The best when Jordan Love plays his best, Lewis, is when he's able to spread the ball around, right? Even when we talk about the Packers, we say, they don't have that premier guy, especially when Tucker Kraft is out. They still have a decent amount of options where Jordan Love can spread the wealth around, not have to hyperfixate on one guy, and sort of just play his, backyard style of football, right? When he really tries to hyper target somebody, or when, they really try to pound the rock and, keep him cold. I think that's when he plays his worst football. And in a spot like this against the Vikings, who really need this game, Lewis. This is what I started the podcast with. If they drop to 4-7, their division odds go down the drain. Their playoff chances are down the drain as well. And so, in a spot like this, where Jordan Love, without Josh Jacobs, like you mentioned, Jaden Reed, I think he still will be out for this game. And him and Dobbs and Watson still haven't really found that connection yet. I think this is a huge spot for the Vikings, where nine, who give him credit. He went on the road a couple of weeks ago to Detroit in his first game back. He found a way to win that game. Now the defense kept it close and the offense did just enough. I could see something very similar happening in this game where the Vikings are a little disappointed with how McCarthy played, but he goes on the road to the Arctic tundra of Lambeau and gets it done on the road. I think the Vikings are in a must-win sort of spot here. And Justin Jefferson, he was visibly frustrated, not just on the sideline, but just straight up on the field immediately after plays. I think the squeaky wheel gets some grease in this matchup, and the Vikings can do just enough to win.
This is a must win for the Green Bay Packers. They just squeaked out a win against the Jameis-led Giants, and they've looked pretty pathetic for about a month now, especially offensively. Just, self-induced mistakes, just killing them week after week after week. And it does scare me. Brian Flores sending that pressure, getting in Jordan Love's face. If he doesn't get a consistent running game, how is he going to look? But the fact that this is in Green Bay and this is the Green Bay defense going up against nine, I think they're going to force him into a lot of mistakes, to have opportunities for short fields where you just need a. And I think he had a decent connection with Christian Watson last week. Maybe emerging as that guy stepping up once Tucker Kraft went down for injury. So that could be potentially something. But really just needing to get, like you said, the whole cast of characters involved to really put together a good effort in this game. I like the Packers in this one. I don't love the Packers in this one. This is my belief that the Packers, if they lose this game, Larob, they are a serious threat to just miss the playoffs entirely. And with that being said, I just cannot trust them in this spot. I am going to go. Oh, I will. I'll have to trust them in this spot. They have to win. Excuse me. Freudian slip. I'm going with Green Bay, an ugly 24-19 ball game.
And I'm rolling with 9. Jack Doherty did get arrested this past week, and so maybe
I haven't seen
9
McCarthy since.
9 also got locked up, and maybe we'll just see JJ McCarthy on the field for this one. But I'm gonna roll with the Vikings. I agree with you. It's gonna be a little bit of lower scoring battle, but I think the Packers will severely miss Josh Jacobs in this game, and the Vikings do just enough to win 24-21.
All right, Rob. Next up, we have a NFL Classic division rivalry. The Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Jerry World to face the Cowboys. Eagles 3.5 point favorites on the road. Cowboys coming off probably one of their most impressive victories of the year. Beating down the Raiders on Monday night, thanks to Jake Ferguson, George Pickens in that spot. But what the thing with the Eagles is they just find ways to win week after week. It looks ugly. Every beat reporter in Philadelphia is sitting here talking about AJ Brown not getting the ball, Jalen Hurts' hesitancy to rip balls through open windows, and don't even get me started with you know who. I'm not even gonna go there right now. I'm not feeling the greatest. I don't know if I can pull it off, but um, interesting spot here for the Cowboys with still a window open, Laura. Do you think the Eagles shut that window close?
100%. I think the Cowboys, they're getting a little bit too much respect, like you mentioned, after beating down that trepid Raiders team on Monday Night Football. Can we really trust Quinn Williams in a big spot like this? Can we trust Logan Wilson to lead your linebacking core? Yeah, sure, against Stone Forsythe. But this Eagles offensive line, now they will be without Lane Johnson for a considerable amount of time, but still, I think that unit as a whole is just too great for this Cowboys defense defensive line to overcome. And then on the other side, the Eagles, we saw this 2 years ago where, they were struggling to pick up wins and we could kind of see the fraudulence peeking through. But that was when they were beating, really bad teams. This year, they've had close games, but they've been close against the Packers. They've been close against the Chiefs. They've been close against, some great opponents. And, and now
The
you're playing.
Rams, like, yeah,
Right, of
they've
course, that Rams comeback. But now you're going to Jerry World. I think this is just too big of a spot for the Cowboys. They're going to be let down after their offensive showing from last week. This Eagles defense, top 3 unit in the league, arguably top 1. And I think they're really going to put the breakdown on this Cowboys team. Jalen Carter, week 1 revenge. I think he will be due
mm.
for a couple of sacks in this game against Dak Prescott. I think the Eagles offense gets back on track in this when they put up 30 points and beat the Cowboys 30-24.
I will say for the Cowboys perspective, the interior defensive line combo of Kenny Clark and Quinn Williams, the two holdovers from the Micah trade, and then the trade for Quinn Williams. I really do like that duo, and I get it. It was against the awful Raiders offensive line and awful Ashton Genty, but I just think that this can be a recipe that you can replicate, right? All that interior pressure really getting the guys. But against this Eagles offense, I just don't think it's going to be. You really need these athletic, bendy edges to really give Jalen Hurts problems. And if he gets out of the pocket, makes a few guys miss, I do not trust any of the rest of this Cowboys front seven secondary to contain him or these other receivers going down the field. I think Saquon Barkley also has a good, kind of shake back game here against Dallas, especially, in a controlled environment this late into the season. I think the Eagles put up some real numbers in this game. And for the Cowboys offense, this Philly defense has been locked down the past few weeks. And it all starts in the front with Jalen Carter and their own defensive tackle tandem with Jordan Davis, right? Just disrupting the offense. If they're forcing Dak into a lot of third and longs, uncomfortable situations, this game could get ugly quickly. And that's what I think is going to happen, Larob. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. I'm going to go Philly 28 to Dallas 17.
All right, and let's move on to our final highlighted game on Sunday Night Football. The Buccaneers, who have dropped the past 2 games in a row, going to Los Angeles to play the Rams. Rams favored by a whole 7 points, a full touchdown at home, Lewis. And I have to agree. I mean, this Rams team has been unstoppable, and they've been led by MVP frontrunner Matthew Stafford, who in his last 7 games, Lewis has thrown zero interceptions. Meanwhile, this Buccaneers pass defense ranked fifth worst in the NFL. I think in this primetime spot, Stafford really cements himself as that, lead front runner. And the Buccaneers team who, we know they had a really easy path of winning their division, but playing that first place schedule, they've had a couple of really tough games, and it just continues to get tough as we get deeper into the season.
Yeah, and the thing with the Bucks team is, this is definitely the last game of their hardest stretch of the year. Definitely softens up after this, but you really need to put some pelts on your wall if you're the Buccaneers. You haven't had a super impressive victory, maybe at Seattle a few like early on in the season, but that feels like it was so long ago, and you had way more of your guys at that time. But even still unsure about Bucky Irving's status entering this game, questionable. Had limited practice on Wednesday, so his status still hangs in the air. But being able to run the ball, even we saw last week, right? They were establishing the run against Buffalo, and the offense got going, but that defense was just getting annihilated by the Bills. And now you're going on the road to play a better offense, in my opinion, all around with the Rams. And I just think that it's going to be really tough for them to slow this team down by the land, by air, however the Rams are going to do it. They're going to put a ton of pressure on Baker, who I just feel like is taking so many hits that just week after week, where it's like a guy like that, you'll just, with Baker, he's just such a tough SOB. You won't find out until after the season when it's like, yeah, he had a few cracked ribs there, he got in week 5, because the drop off for him statistically, since he was in the mix for the MVP race a few weeks ago, has been pretty precipitous. I mean, to see where he was to where he is now, a lot of that is, you lose Mike Evans, you lose Bucky Irving, a lot of offensive linemen go down. Um, just the overall core of your team. Now, a win here in a big stage against the team that we both have a ton of faith in the Rams. If we were to do a top 5 teams, they'd be 1, 2, or 3 in whatever order you imagine. But I just think that a win here would really get them back on track. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the Rams have way too many advantages on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this one, going Rams 30 to Tampa 24.
Yeah, I'm also gonna roll with the Rams 30 to Buccaneers 22.
All right, and then finally, that will wrap it up. Excuse me. Only 4 highlighted games this week. Usually whenever we have weeks like this where it's not a lot of like big marquee matchups, that means there's going to be some crazy upsets upcoming. So let's go ahead and get into the rest of that slate, Laraib. Starting off with the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Chicago to face the Bears. Bears favored by 2.5 in this spot. Aaron Rodgers sat out practice today, dealing with the left hand injury that he sustained last week. There's still been no update on his status for this game. However, I believe it's unlikely he plays, and even if he does, I just think this is a tough spot for them facing this red hot Bears defense. I like the Bears in this one. Give me Chicago 31 to 24.
Yeah, I'm also going to roll with the Bears. I think momentum for them has just been insane. And we talked about it on the Tuesday pod. This is sort of like their last free game that they can get at home against a Steelers team who, yeah, they're 6 and, they have 6 wins, but albeit a really bad defense and an offense who, without Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Warren a little bit banged up. I think the Bears, this is going to be their easiest game remaining on their schedule in a big spot at home where Caleb Williams last week had to really claw back against the Minnesota Vikings. I think him, Kyle Monangai, and Rome Odunze put up big numbers in this one against the decrepit Steelers team. I think the Bears win 30 to 21.
All right, next game up, Laura, we have the New England Patriots traveling to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. New England favored by 6 in this spot. Big news this week, Laura. Joe Burrow, a full participant in the last 2 days of practice, today, Thursday, yesterday, Wednesday, and all signs point to him potentially returning for this game. You think it's going to matter in this spot, Laura?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Bengals offense has not been the issue for this team this year. It's been their defense. They've been awful. And the Patriots, on the other hand, they've shown that they can consistently beat bad teams. And that's what the Bengals are. The Bengals are a bad team. So you can give me Joe Burrow, you can give me Joe Flacco. It doesn't really matter if their defense can't stop Drake May and that pretty deep ball that he has. I think the Patriots can coast their way to a free victory. I think the Patriots win at 31 to 24.
Well, for certain you won't not have Jamar Chase in this spot. Thank you, Jalen Ramsey, for instigating. Especially without Jamar in the spot, I mean, if you're a T. Higgins owner, I guess you're jumping for joy if Burrow's able to return. But you're right. I mean, this defense is clearly the issue. And I think this Patriots offense has gotten to a point now, or not even the offense, just the team in general, where Vrabel is just constantly just setting them up with all this belief that they can do it. We're a team that our expectations, they've risen, but in the building, he's still putting out the same message of every day, win this day, win today, win today. And I think they will win on Sunday. Give me the Patriots in this one, 43-36. Next up, we have what, you like that score? Well, I haven't seen that much scoregami right
Scoregami,
there.
maybe.
New York Giants traveling to Detroit to face the Lions. Lions favored by 10. I don't know. Are the Lions the team with the most double-digit spreads so far this season? Who's may have lost one or two of them. Regardless, I don't have much to say. This Giants offense, Jameis might do some fun stuff. This might be a high-scoring game, but Detroit's got to bounce back in this spot, and they're going to be desperate. And I think they're going to dominate this Giants team, especially on the ground. I think they rush for almost 300 yards in this one. Give me Detroit in this spot.
Yeah, we've seen this movie before so many times this season. Lions lose a big game against a good team, and then they get to beat up on the bottom feeders of the league, and that's exactly what this game is. Lions get back on track. Golf, especially, I think they win 36-17.
Speaking of the bottom feeders of the league, we have the Tennessee Titans hosting your Seattle Seahawks. Seattle 12 and a half point favorites in this spot. Doesn't need much note for me. Give me the Seahawks big.
Yeah, Darnold bounce back spot. After throwing four interceptions, I think he really needs to put the skeletons back in the closet for this game and get rolling again on offense. I think the Seahawks win 30-13.
Really, really good opportunity for Darnold to get a good get back here. Try to get some of that momentum back in his direction. So looking forward to that. Now, if you mess this one up, woof. Final noon game, Laura. We have the Jets traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Baltimore 13 and a half point favorites. We're looking at Tyrod Taylor, and there's no way they beat this Ravens team. Now, what I will say, the Ravens need to show me that they can smoke this team out of the water like the Ravens of old. Because if this is a similar situation like last week against the Browns, now I get it. Divisional opponent. They've always played the Browns tough every year, no matter who's a quarterback. That I get that game being tough, but they need to come out this week and put belt to ass and just destroy the Jets. If they're able to do that, then they'll get a lot of my respect back and really get a lot of mojo going forward, especially if the Steelers lose to Chicago. They pretty much tie them up in the division, and things are looking up, 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 and golden for the Ravens. I like the Ravens big.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I think this is just a huge spot for Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, and the Black Lotus Zay Flowers to put up 42 bomb here. You could just see them just scoring point after point in this one, really getting back on track, especially like you mentioned, if the Steelers lose right there back in the thick of things. I think the Ravens win 42-13.
All right. And then for our first 3 o'clock game, Laura, we have the Cleveland Browns traveling to Vegas to play the Raiders. Raiders 4-point favorites in this spot. This purely is a anti-Shador pick because I think the look ahead line for this was Browns maybe 2.5, maybe 1.5 favored, but clearly Vegas does not respect Shador's capabilities as a quarterback. I'm not saying I don't, but I'm not going that far. He's going to have to prove it to me first. So give me the Raiders in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't pick Shador in his first ever start. I think he's a little bit too nonchalant right now. And Gino, he's
Gino!
not that good, but I think he'll do just enough to squeak by a win against the Browns. I think the Raiders win 13-10.
All right, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Arizona to face the Cardinals. Jags favored by 3 points on the road. I mean, we saw Jacoby Brissett light up the stat sheet last week. 47 completions in a single game, by far the NFL record, and we may never see that get broken, Laura, because that is truly an absurd number. But for this spot, I think the Jaguars team, what they showed me last week with them just running the ball just right up the Chargers' gut, I think this is a softer Cardinals defense, and that defense of the Jags can put a lot of pressure on Brissett, force him into some mistakes, and I think Jags win an ugly one, 21-13.
And I'm leaning with the all-time completions in a game leader in Jacoby Brissett, in Michael Wilson, in Trey McBride. This Jaguars defense, Lewis, you can throw on them at nauseum. We saw Davis Mills at in Houston throw all over this really sorry Jaguars secondary. And that's if there's one thing that this Cardinals team can do, Lewis, is figure out a way to throw the ball. And I think they throw it just enough, especially with Bashal Tutin dealing with an ankle injury, as well as Travis Etienne. He was also limited on practice. I think those two guys banged up. They'll most likely still play, but if they're not at 100%, I can definitely see this Jaguars offense sputtering a little bit. And the Cardinals, their season might be over, but they have
It
a lot
is.
of young, promising rookies in Max Johnson, in their
Will Johnson.
Gunther the third, defensive tackle who showed out on Monday Night Football. I think Trevor Lawrence, he's riding on top of the world, right? After beating the Chargers at home. This is a huge spot for them to just come up flat. I think the Cardinals win a close game at 27-24.
Gunther the third.
His name is
I'll let you
slipping my
find that one.
mind.
Next on up, Laraib, we have my favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, facing those dirty birds in Atlanta at home. I may or may not be at this game, so look for my
Ooh.
pearly whites on the camera screen. As I'm disappointed that Kirk Cousins is beating my favorite team. Um, I'm going with the Saints here. Tyler Shuck gets it rolling, two in a row. No Drake London, no Michael Penix. He's out for the year. And this Falcons defense is just reverting back to what we know it is. We saw, I mean, obviously the Colts are a great offense, but just spam running the ball. And I think that the Saints offensive line is a good job running the ball. Tyler Shuck lets a few uncork in this game. And the Saints defense, really good against the pass this year. I think Bijan might have a few break. I mean, obviously it's going to be a heavy Bijan script, but I think the Saints get a huge win here at home. That's what we do. Who dat?
Shout out Walter Nolan the
Walter
third,
Nolan.
aka Gunther the third.
Gunther.
In this Falcons Saints game, I mean, I'm rolling with the Saints. Last time we saw this team, Lewis, they put belt to ass on the Carolina Panthers, and now this Falcons secondary gave up 450 passing yards to Bryce Young. Tyler Shuck, I think he was really impressive in that Panthers game. Now he got a bye week, got a little bit more adjusted with the offense. He has a great connection with Jawan Johnson, his former college teammate. I think they do just enough. And Kirk Cousins, how much juice does he really have left, especially with no Drake London? I think that's going to be a tough task for them. This could be a little bit of an ugly game, especially if those young pass rushers for the Falcons can get going. But the Saints, I think they win a couple games, get a little momentum going, and I think they
Little
find a
Derek
way.
Queen Saints
What
connection.
did I tell you about New Orleans sports? You didn't listen to me when I told you the Saints would
They both
upset the
have two
Panthers.
wins.
Uh, it's a little
All right.
bit more impressive for one team than another team. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Saints 26-23.
Hey, if you see me there, tell if you see me at the game and you say Gunther the third, I will give you $1,000 cash. You heard it here first. All right, final game. We have Monday Night Football. The Carolina Panthers traveling to San Francisco to face the Niners. Niners favored by 7 in this spot, Laura. And Christian McCaffrey revenge game, some are calling it. I know I am because even if I'm down 50 points in fantasy, he'll come through like he always does. And yeah, I like the Niners here. Now, I will say Bryce Young. See, what makes me more confident in the Niners here is Bryce Young had his quarter season good game. He got that out of the way. The second half, it kind of splits up into quarters. He'll have one good game for every like 6, 7. So he just got it out of the way. So now he's gonna revert back to awful Bryce Young that we all laugh and point at. So I like the Niners in the spot. Brock Purdy looked good last week, coming back. So give me the Niners.
I'm also rolling with the 49ers. Like you mentioned, the Panthers, they had a couple, good wins this year, but this is a prime spot for them to kind of just fall flat on their face. And on the other side, 49ers, let's not rule them out of still winning their division, Lewis. They split with the Rams. They beat the Seahawks once already this year, and they have the easiest schedule remaining out of all three of those teams. And so this is just another big spot for them. Pick up their eighth win on the year and beat this sorry Panthers team. I like the 49ers 31-17.
All right, well, I'll do it for our full Week 12 slate, Laraib. Now let's go into our upsets, locks, and best bets of the week. I'll start with my upset. It is the Indianapolis Colts traveling to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. I just really think the Colts are being undervalued in the spot. I think they have the best offense in the league for a reason. They're going to put a lot of points on the Chiefs. Chiefs cannot run the ball. They're not going to be able to really stay away from this Colts team, and Colts get a win, and the Chiefs start scrambling after this one.
And for my upset, I am rolling with 9. I think the Vikings, they will find a way to win in a must-win spot to stay in a chance of winning the division or even making the playoffs in the NFC. I think the Vikings defense comes up huge against a Packers team, which has not looked too impressive this year.
Which is a great segue into my lock of the week because I have those Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. JJ McCarthy doesn't want to play in the cold. He doesn't get that vibe. Micah Parsons, he's about to meet 9 in a dark alley, and we know who's coming out. Not 9, 11.
Shout
I'll
out
pause
Stranger
right there.
Things.
And
Um,
then you're upset.
Well, my upset was 9. My lock
Oh,
is
lock.
the New England Patriots at 9-2, facing the potentially Joe Burrow led Bengals, who are 3-7. I just think, like I mentioned, the Patriots, they have shown they can consistently beat bad teams. The Bengals are a bad team, uh, and they find a way to win this one.
Sorry, I'm getting terrified thinking about picking against Joe Burrow. Anyway, even though I did. And best bet of the week, Larob, what you got?
I got Jets, Ravens over 44.5. If I'm
Mm.
being very truthful here, Lewis, I think the Ravens could eclipse that number by themselves in this game, playing the sorry Jets team. And then on the other side, Tyrod Taylor. Maybe throw a couple pick sixes, maybe throw a couple sixes to Adonai Mitchell. Just
Hello.
give me 10 points, and I think the Ravens can do the rest.
All right, and then my best bet of the week, I have the Seattle Seahawks beating the Titans by over 12 and a half points. This Titans team is awful. The Seahawks, when they play bad teams, they stomp them into the dirt. The most 20-point margin of victory games this season belongs to Seattle.
Go.
And the special teams, the defense, when they smell blood, they attack. So I think they get off to a great start. It doesn't even matter if Darnold has a good game. They're going to score defensively, special teams. They're going to make sure. Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else? Come on. Enough from the clown.
No, that was it. That was
All
it.
right, well, that's going to do it for our picks, locks, upsets, and best bets. Okay. Okay. And best bets of the week here. Thank you if you made it this far for sticking around. Let us know in the comments who you think are going to win all these games this week. And again, if you see me in public for the next 2 years, and if you're not related to Larab, and you say Gunther the Third, $1,000 cash in your bank account.
Shout out Gunther the Third. If you have any recommendations for where we should go in Japan, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. But or if you have any tips on how to do the Ashes of the Damned Easter egg, that would be greatly appreciated. But without
Gotcha.
further ado, I think this is the First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.